SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
State Treasurer David McRae is returning record amounts of money to Mississippians, whether it's through the College and Career Savings Program or the hundreds of millions in unclaimed money awaiting your claim. Treasurer David McRae says get your applications and claims in today. Treasury.ms.gov.
This is Gerard Gibert, and thank you for listening to MidDays here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
MidDays with Gerard Gibert is on the air. MidDays with Gerard Gibert is powered by C Spire. Power your home or business with C Spire Fiber. To learn more, visit supertalk.fm/C Spire. C Spire Fiber powers SuperTalk Mississippi. Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Midday SuperTalk Mississippi. I'm your host, Gerard Gibert, along with Rhino in the Element Wealth studio, guiding you through the middle of your day with facts, fodder, and fine music on this
Friday Eve.
I'm speechless. I don't know what to say, and I'll have to tell you, I feel some degree of responsibility to expressing the frustration and the anger and the sadness felt by so many in this country. And Rhino, it kind of kept me up all night thinking about what are the right words, right? Yeah, I know you felt that too.
Yeah, I think I got to bed about 3:30.
You feel a sense of responsibility behind this microphone. I don't know what the right words are. I go from the range of just being super pissed off to sad. And, man, all you have to do is look at that video, and it's hard not to well up, honestly. And now we're learning that, right, his wife, his family was present. Is that true?
That's what it seems like, yeah.
I can't even comprehend it. How does such evil and just inhumane attitude, how does it grip human beings? I can't even comprehend it. I really can't. I can't explain it. You want so badly to try to rationalize this, and you simply can't.
And that's one point that I came to the conclusion I needed to make because I've seen way too many people. I know it's human nature to want to try to put together and connect dots, but I've seen a lot of people say that this had to be a professional hit or an international spy agency or some conspiratorial tinfoil hat stuff like that. And from everything that's available publicly, from what we know, this was about a 200-yard shot with a .30-06 bolt-action rifle.
And now it appears the FBI believes they have the rifle.
Yeah, they've found it in a wooded area where the suspect left. They have good video of the suspect coming onto campus and leaving campus, and they're confident they'll be able to use that along with other tools in their toolbox to identify them. But 200 yards with a .30-06 is not at that skill level where a professional assassin or a sniper-trained shooter. I get it. It's human nature. You want to help figure out what happened, but spinning off strange conspiracies about what the person's training was or what their organization was at this point is futile.
Yeah, I agree. And of course it's 9/11. And it's 24 years later that we recall one of the darkest days in American history, for sure. And just the idea, the concept, the notion that we are recognizing 9/11, this terrible day that we experienced 24 years ago, in less than 24 hours after the assassination before our very eyes of a conservative leader, an incredibly brave individual, knowing that he was at risk everywhere he went. I mean, this guy did not hesitate, did not back off, did not shy away from going into the, as the metaphor goes, the belly of the beast. America's college campuses, which are fraught with, we've talked about it so extensively. Charlie Kirk saw this happening years ago, and at such a young age to spearhead a powerful movement where he confronted people, and in confronting, I mean engaged in civil discourse with people who didn't agree with him and would invite them forward. He enjoyed speaking to them. And, you know, in the back of his mind, I think he was hoping maybe I can help them see the light. And I think he did, many people. And just try to speak the truth and counter their assertions and their beliefs, which they had been indoctrinated with by the dang Marxist professors a few feet away in the classrooms.
Some of whom were elated at the news yesterday.
It's the most
and are being
disgusting.
Exposed.
Good.
There are people that spent all night last night just exposing the subhuman filth that danced on Charlie Kirk's grave.
And you sent me a couple of those. I'm sorry to say that there's an individual at my alma mater, at Ole Miss, that also issued a despicable statement. Works for, I believe, the vice chancellor in the Lyceum. And, you know, I hope she's terminated. I'm just going to say it. It's uncalled for. It's inappropriate. It's improper. This person's also owns a restaurant in the local area. I spoke to...
I think it's her family that owns it, isn't it?
Is it her family? Okay.
I don't know that she's a direct owner.
Well, maybe not. But the connection has gotten attention.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are people who are exposing that. It's just incredible. And I'm sad that this is happening at my alma mater in the state. And I will say that she does not speak for the rest of us affiliated with the university. Me as just a plain old alumnus. And I've talked to other of my alumnus friends this morning that are also calling attention to this. But she's one of, unfortunately, thousands across the country. You sent me a couple, and, of course, all this stuff's going viral. Good for our side in exposing these subhumans, as you aptly described them. This all goes back to this April poll you and I talked about on the show about the assassination culture. I think that term really came about when all these people were celebrating the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO and were showing support for, and in many cases lauding and fawning all over, the assassin. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Placing that above human life. And so...
It's enraging.
And that's what I'm saying.
I admit, last night I had to take moments where I had to just step outside, take a deep breath of fresh air, and just, all right.
Me too.
That's obviously somebody that is either so ignorant that they shouldn't be speaking publicly or so evil that they don't deserve my attention.
But you're so right.
But it's enraging. And the point I want to make about that is I've seen several calls for preparation, several calls for all kinds of extrajudicial nonsense. One, you cannot sink to the level of the subhuman that shot and killed Charlie Kirk. You just can't. You can't let politics be a driving factor in violence, or your team loses all standing.
Totally agree.
We don't know the motive for the shooter. People have a pretty good idea. It's going to be hard to change those minds. But as of right now, we don't know. So being angry about the shooter having some ideological belief that you're against is not doing any good. Direct that anger towards the people that are literally laughing and dancing over the death of a father and a husband, a young man who did not try to fight with weapons, a young man that tried to change minds with words.
These are some sick ghouls, is what they are, and you're right. They don't deserve to live in this country, in my view. We're going to take a step aside for a break here. We got Jimmy Wesley Holifield, a World War II veteran, coming in at 11:05. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Bob.
This segment of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Let's do this.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Let's go.
Oh, beautiful, for heroes proved in liberating strife.
And of course, the left in this country immediately pounces on the old, tired, worn-out rhetoric. It's the guns that did it. Idiots. Here's what I'll say about Charlie Kirk. And I know this is posthumously, but I believe this in my heart. He would still be defending the Second Amendment. Is there any question about that? None. That doesn't mean he defends or condones that there is such a thing as a right to someone to take another's life or use weapons for harm, guns for harm. No, nobody on the right believes that. And then, of course, we see the looms, I'm sorry to say, in the United States House of Representatives. Did I send you some sound on that? Check it out. So, this is it. In fact, this is so crazy. It's almost like the news channel, the business news channel, here's our discussion. They just put the story up on the screen about lawmakers in the U.S. House becoming disruptive and making a bit of a scene. Here we go. Listen.
Well, if I can get it to unmute.
For a moment of prayer for Charlie Kirk and his family. Shh. Let's wait a minute. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. The House will be in order. Thank you.
You're the problem, idiots. You're the problem. My gosh, you're putting politics above human life. It's absurd. Bravo to the Speaker You could tell he was mad. Good for him. Call the dang sergeant at arms and get all the Capitol Police and get their asses out of the house. They don't deserve to be there. I can't even comprehend it. You can't take a second, just a moment of silence for the loss of a human life in broad daylight on an American college campus? A father? A husband? What is wrong with you people?
How is it that a Major League Baseball team has more class than Democrats in the U.S. House?
The New York Yankees.
The New York Yankees held a moment of silence.
Good for the Yankees. Bravo to the Yankees. What is wrong with people, man? They don't deserve to represent this country.
Because they've spent the last living memory dehumanizing and demonizing anybody that didn't toe their party line.
These are the people that claim that folks like Charlie Kirk, the president, others, me and you, if they knew us, you're the problem. You represent the end of democracy. No, the end of democracy is when you can't just comply for a few seconds to pay respects to a dead person. My gosh, what is the deal with you people? And you wonder why we think you're nuts. So they're the ones who always like to complain about and promote this narrative of the end of democracy. What the heck's the First Amendment in this country? Something they honestly, and is it essential to democracy? Which essentially, the definition of which is government of, by, for the people. Can you have a functioning republic built on the values of democracy, which is what we're supposed to have in this country, if you don't have free speech? The message yesterday, Rhino, in my view, from the killer and all the people who are celebrating is they don't want free speech. And that's exactly what Charlie Kirk did. He engaged in robust debate. You may not agree with his positions, but who the hell says, I don't like what you're saying, I'm killing you? What kind of subhuman does that? It's inexplicable. That's the end of democracy. Is this not what happens in other countries? We're witnessing it in the UK, from whence our forefathers came. That's why they left. And they're returning to that crap. You probably have seen the viral video going around with a police officer. I think it's in London. It was one of the cities in the UK. Comes to arrest a person for a post they made on social media because some other nutcase said it promoted anxiety. It made me feel a sense of anxiety. You get arrested for that? You talk about it all the time. It seems like that one's feelings drive our policy, our standards. The hell with your feelings. You put your feelings above human life. I can't comprehend it. I really can't. But I think
that's why I say it's natural to feel enraged.
Well, I'm feeling it.
And
I know it. And I apologize for yelling, man. I'm just upset.
It's a natural reaction to having to watch someone who tried to talk it out, who believed when you stop talking, it gets bad, killed because he said things that made people uncomfortable.
Exactly right. And there, you know this in his Turning Point organization. And can you imagine being 31 and creating such a movement that attracted so many? And everywhere he went on college campuses, they can't go inside because I don't have any buildings that have auditoriums big enough. About the only other place that could handle it, other than like the setting they had yesterday, would be the football stadium. So he goes out and engages with people who don't agree with him and would invite them to the front. Not so that he could talk over them as they do or belittle them or berate them. He didn't do that. They would make their points, their talking points, and he would just talk it out with them, often refuting it. But, it's always somebody that feels aggrieved. It's their feelings crap, like you talk about. It's the so-called underserved. I'm sick of your underserved crap. You're going to a dang American university, and you're talking about being underserved? No, underserved is what you get in corrupt nations across the pond where they're literally looking for something to eat and drink every day. That's underserved.
Where the old people get a few pounds of meat a year on New Year's.
Unbelievable. All of course, reserved for the corrupt regime. They're the ones that oppress the people in their own country for personal gain. I know I'm digressing a bit, but go pay attention to that. You're on a damn college campus. My
Again,
gosh.
It's a lack of self-awareness by those that believe in liberalism. They refuse to look in the mirror because they know if they do, they'll see their own ugly souls looking right in their face.
I think you're right. But how could you possibly, with a straight face, lecture us about being privileged?
Because they have no shame.
From the protections of a college campus. My gosh, do they realize how privileged that is relative to the rest of the world? And why do we have these incredible institutions? Capitalism. There's no way to do that in the systems, the economic systems that they want. It's just incredible. I think, as the Emperor of Japan said upon the attack of Pearl Harbor, after that, in the aftermath, when they saw the reaction from America, the resolve, they've awakened a sleeping giant. I really do believe that. And we've got to be more outspoken. Violence, never the answer. Never. But we got to
keep your powder dry, because it seems like they're hunting us.
I hate it. Heck, I've even had people in the last 24 hours suggest to me that when we're outside doing these remotes and stuff, I need bodyguards. That's insane. I can't even comprehend that. It's like, what? Man. Just because we speak the truth? We share our opinions?
And hurt their feelings.
Oh, my gosh. We got to fix it, man. We just got to fix it. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio.
Have you forgotten?
From the Sebring.
Get on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert
It is on.
on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Sun coming up over New York City. School bus driver in a traffic jam. Staring at the
Okay, so the nutcase Jen Psaki, who used to be Biden's press secretary, she's so oppressed, with her $1 million salary over there at MSNBC. And she conducted, of course, interviews on her show yesterday. One of those was with Arizona Senator Mark Kelly. And she says that the political violence in this country is being incited by the White House. That's her contention.
It's also Liz Warren's contention.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
It's also Pritzker's contention.
The governor of Illinois, who says that there's no crime problem in the largest city in his fair state. And because of Charlie Kirk expressing his opinions, just mere words. Of course, remember, words are considered violence. Because anything, as you say, that affects one negatively from a feelings perspective is just unacceptable. That's taboo. That they equate that to violence. What we saw yesterday...
Because if you push back on their delusions fall apart like a house of cards.
That is so true. And that's what they don't want. Just as the terrorists who brought down those buildings on 9/11, 2001, they held our economic system and our wealth in deep contempt. And that's the risk here. That's the danger, guys. It's all these people who believe that wealthy people are their enemies. The bane of society are CEOs and billionaires. While they use the goods and services they produce to spread their message. Just wrap your head around the irony and the hypocrisy of that. You don't want them to be billionaires? Shut that stuff off. You're making them rich with every keystroke. Oh, there must be some value to it, right? It turns out when you create something of such enormous value, you get rewarded for it in our system. They can't stand that. They're eaten up with jealousy and envy. And in this case, it's Charlie Kirk, who's willing to go on college campuses where, honestly, his viewpoints are in the minority. But he's pissing off people because his movement's gaining traction. And this Generation Z that seems to be so enamored with socialism and always worried about it's unfair to them and unfair to them and all over the DEI stuff and affirmative action and everything that places one's physical attributes, or on the case that you point out, their feelings above merit and quality and performance and contribution and value above that. And there's numerous situations, where Charlie would interact with someone on the campus, usually a minority. We have to be honest about this. Yeah, I just feel like I don't have a chance. And he would question them on it. Like, why? And do you think that we should force companies, for example, or even public institutions like colleges to prioritize in their decision making for everything from grades to enrollment and admissions to hiring, compensation based on your race? And Charlie Kirk said, no, absolutely not. It's not in the best interest of society. And many, he would work through that and change their minds on it. Some's just hopeless, right? They want to live an aggrieved martyr life. I'm convinced of that. They thrive on it.
They derive some sense of pleasure or accomplishment from victimhood.
Unbelievable. Vivek Ramaswamy wrote a great book 4 years ago called Nation of Victims. I encourage you guys to read it. It sits in my office. And he was spot on with that. And that is what we've created. We should pursue excellence over victimhood. Excellence solves a lot of problems. We've lost sight of that. When you remember the very first example we ever shared here on the show was Sandia Labs, the company that produces, I'm sad to say, America's nuclear arsenal. And this, of course, was in the wake of the George Floyd deal where all these DEI and CRT consulting bogus organizations were spinning up, and every corporation in America had to go pay these consultants to come in and counsel them on policy and at least attempt to influence attitudes and mindsets. And this company, Sandia Labs, sent their entire management team off-site to endure and complete these workshops being held by these consultants. And they told them, a can-do attitude, rugged individualism, striving for success, Those are all elements of white supremacy. And I really feel like all of this stems from that. And so Charlie Kirk, as you know, everywhere he went, he promoted the idea of merit above DEI. He was a staunch opponent of DEI. And he would address the gender ideology crap, much like you and I have. I don't care if you're an adult, you want to go do that crap. You don't get any preferential treatment because of it. That's what you want.
You can't force people to live in your deluded reality.
Correct. But when you start sterilizing children who are confused, that's when we all draw the line, including him. That's just flat out wrong. And all of this stuff by the left, by many on the left in this country, they would equate that to fascism. Your beliefs, right, along those lines. You're a fascist.
You hurt my feelings, you're a Nazi.
Right. Including the president, who often gets framed as one. But you're so right. The reaction we're seeing in some of the posts.
But no, it's Trump that needs to tone down his rhetoric.
Unbelievable.
It's not the left that literally spent the last living memory dehumanizing every single person right of center.
It's just unbelievable. My wife listening in, and she just sent a text, and she's so right. She said, we channel our views differently. We're not burning down buildings. We're not destroying property. We're not killing people, and that's the difference.
Yeah, no businesses felt the need to board up last night in the wake of Charlie Kirk's killing.
Correct.
I wonder why.
Because they know that people that think like we do don't consider that as an appropriate reaction. They're just not likely to go react that way. It's unbelievable. It truly is. On the C Spire text line, by the way, Mose and someone else here corrected me, and I appreciate that. It wasn't the Emperor of Japan. It was Admiral Yamamoto that is credited with a quote, "We've awakened a sleeping giant." So I appreciate that. I knew of somebody high up in Japan, and it was a direct result of...
Yeah, I think Hirohito's quote about America's strength was, you cannot invade mainland America because there will be a rifle hiding behind every blade of grass.
That is correct. I remember that. Great. Scott and Clinton says, you mean the Mark Kelly that broke federal gun laws by straw purchasing an AR-15? Yeah, he's a pretty despicable dude, Mark Kelly. I totally agree. Thomas in Greenwood says, you think Twitter is bad, try Reddit. I don't think I can. I'm honestly, I think I just get, like you said, I get pissed off even further if I did that. Let's see on the C Spire text line, it's Greg Ward. I'm also so disappointed at WLBT and WAPT calling Charlie either a right-wing political activist or a political activist. In Charlie's words, he most wanted to be remembered for his faith. He was a modern-day disciple of Christ. He was so respectful of others' opinions, but if you follow Christ, you would be conservative. I hope this will cause deep searching in young people's hearts. I hope they still have the turning point event at Ole Miss. Wouldn't that be something? He was scheduled to be on the campus at the university next month. I hadn't thought about that, Greg. Maybe we should proceed and figure a plan for that purpose. In the meantime, I hope this person that works for the vice chancellor is terminated. The comment that she made was disgusting, and I'm embarrassed about it. I'm embarrassed from her. So,
what does the left always like to say? Yeah, you could have free speech, just not freedom of consequence.
That's exactly right.
They don't like it when the rabbit's got the gun.
Also, we got to give props to MSNBC for terminating Matthew Dowd. We'll share the comments that nutcase made that got him fired, which was the right move. Coming right back.
Are we going to do this?
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
Keep rolling. 3, 2, 1.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Stand up next to you and defend her still today.
So the president has ordered flags to be flown at half-staff in memory of Charlie Kirk. You just wonder if there will be compliance with that.
There have already been some issues reported this morning.
Not surprised. What did you expect when members of the U.S. House of Representatives can't behave
and
in a
members
civil
of the
fashion?
armed forces and teachers on Army bases and stuff like that. They've all been caught dancing on Charlie Kirk's grave, and they're all being exposed.
Good.
For the subhuman filth that they are.
Well, one of those, Matthew Dowd, fired from MSNBC yesterday following his comments on MSNBC's Katie Tur reports. Dowd suggested that Kirk's push of, here you go, hate speech. Hate speech. What is hate speech?
Anything that doesn't agree 100% with the left. Anything that hurts their precious little feelings. Anything that might even resemble normal.
I'm saddened by the accuracy of your comments. So his removal came just a few hours after the president of the network, Rebecca Cutler, released a statement. Here it goes. During our breaking news coverage of the shooting of Charlie Kirk, Matthew Dowd made comments that were inappropriate, insensitive, and unacceptable. We apologize for his statements, as has he. There is no place for violence in America, political or otherwise. I don't agree with anything the nutcases at MSNBC said, but I got to give some props here to the president. But you know what?
You notice they released that statement on their PR account with 23,000 followers, not their main account with millions.
I did. I saw that too. I wondered about that.
So I won't give them credit. I'll give them credit they fired him. I won't give them credit for the apology. Who I want to give credit to are the creators of South Park.
What they
Matt
do?
and Trey recently had an episode of South Park, and the last few episodes have been pretty much entirely skewering the right wing. And they had an episode featuring Charlie Kirk, poking fun at his campus debates. And Charlie Kirk leaned into it, joked about how he had made it because he was now on South Park. And there were calls for, I think it's Paramount would be the corporate entity in charge to pull the episode and stuff like that. But no, the creators of South Park, Matt Stone and Trey Parker, removed the episode from air of their own volition out of respect for the events that happened yesterday.
Unbelievable. Yeah, agree.
So I'll give them credit for actually being worthwhile human beings.
Okay. Some people come to their senses. That's a good thing. And this would make Charlie smile. But you know what we can do best to honor his life, his legacy, is to continue his campaign, to interact with the Generation Z, which seems to be so enamored with systems that are based on feelings, that are not consistent with those that made this country so great, so wealthy.
Or even reality or human
That's
nature.
true. And they, of course, are being indoctrinated by envious, resentful, jealous professors. I'm convinced of that on our college campuses. Charlie, did he not point that out over and over and over again? And all he was doing was offering counter views, which is what college used to be all about. The laboratory of ideas, free expression, civil debate of the issues. That's what he brought everywhere he went. We got to expand that, make it bigger, better. This single point of view crap that's being thrust down our young people is harming this country in a big way. Now, I know My generation, unfortunately, is largely responsible for that. You talk about it all the time, the leftover hippies. I ain't one of them, by the way. I just want you to know. Also, I'm being informed by a friend that it does look like the Turning Point event is going to be held at Ole Miss. That's good news. That's really good news. So, and Rhino, please tell the folks what you just shared with me, this breaking on the Wall Street Journal about the ammunition that was found.
Yeah, there were rumors that weren't confirmed by the FBI press conference that were swirling around perhaps a idea of the motive, and it is now being confirmed by the Wall Street Journal from an interior law enforcement source that the ammunition that was left over in the rifle was engraved with transgender and anti-fascist sloganing.
You liberal idiots. You got blood on your hands, man. You leaned all into that. You embraced it. You promoted it. You prioritized it.
You enabled craziness.
And you got in the faces of everybody that said, as we have, you're an adult. Knock yourself out. Leave the children alone. That's not good enough. We're coming right back with Mr. Jimmy Wesley Holifield. Stay with us. Your hour of Middays with Gerard Gibert is brought to you by the Mississippi Business Journal. Visit msbusinessjournal.com. Scott Coopwood, publisher and president.
Welcome to the show that challenges you to think deeply, and look beyond political posturing. You're listening to Middays with Gerard Gibert here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays. We're in the Element Wealth studio on this
Friday Eve.
Let's see. We're honored to have now Mr. Jimmy Wesley Holifield, a World War II veteran. Move your mic a little closer to you there, Mr. Holifield. Let's see if we can kind of adjust it. There you go. You're pretty good. Yeah.
Going to make second class. Jimmy Holifield. I went to gunnery school at Dallas, at San Diego, I guess. That's where I went to school anyhow. And I got my second class bars there and done work in several places.
And you're from Kilmichael, right? Kilmichael, Mississippi.
Kilmichael. It's a hard place to find because it's so little.
Yes, sir.
But
how old were you when you were in the Navy? So how old were you when you joined the Navy?
I just don't really know.
Okay.
That was a long time ago. I was 17 years old.
Okay.
Now I'm approaching 99.
99.
So there was a lot of difference in you. You forget a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
That you don't really want to do. But I caught to the main thing. The bell that I heard came up on the dry land, and he was headed for us. We were the only one there that would be in his globe.
Mm-hmm.
I watched him do everything he did and reported even little moves in his stuff to the leader up above me.
Yeah.
And apparently we did a good job between him and me.
So were you involved in the Battle of Okinawa? I understood that's the case. Is that true?
That's the case. That's it.
That was a pivotal battle in the war.
That's
big time.
I guess that's it.
And very bloody battle as well.
That's where it started anyhow.
Yeah.
And he kept getting closer and closer. I finally was able to see some life, and that there was a cage up on the top of this house where he rode,
mm-hmm.
and he was in it. It was about a 4x4 glass enclosure with ammunition, guns, and a very big man. And he had a stool made in there, and that's where he sat with what he needed to put a ship down, really.
Mm-hmm.
And he came closer and closer. I said, "Do you have any business with his eyes?" He says, "Yes, sir, I do. Find them." I said, I know what they are. They're some of the largest eyes I've ever seen, and a big head, and his eyes are green. And they told me to find out if he could see anything else. I said, well, under his eyes is his mouth, and it's big, it's too big to even imagine. But it's got a man in it with teeth from his ears to ear. And they are humongous. You wouldn't want to be fighting. You wouldn't want to fight one of them.
Were you scared?
Beg your pardon?
Were you scared?
Yes, sir. I've never been that scared in my life before, and I've never been that scared since. I saw a bunch of wire stretched over post.
Yeah.
And I went to it and got a hold of them because I was taught somewhere in school that if you don't stand just open ground when you expect bombardment, you get somewhere so the echoes from that doesn't pick you up and throw you out in the ocean.
Yeah.
So I did that. I got my both hands on that 2-inch pipe, and something happened that I needed to move. I don't recall what it was, but something. I was going to get my hands off, but they wouldn't come off. They wouldn't open up. I said, I'll run, and I got my feet ready to run, and they wouldn't come off the asphalt down, or metal, I guess it was. I was stuck there.
Yeah.
I had lost every ounce of energy in me. I had my nerves were no more. I guess I was just a piece of metal sticking up there. But I stayed there for quite some time, probably 10 minutes. And during that 10 minutes, he came right straight to me.
Now, was this on the island, Okinawa? Is that what we're talking about here?
It was.
Okay.
It was.
Okay.
And we were anchored there. Our ship was anchored there. I got out of my rig and gained a little insolence, and I looked up. I said, God, please, you and your son get me out of this. I've done a few things in my life already that I should not do. I'll clear them up, do away with them, and serve you the rest of my life if you give me my life. And he sort of chuckled and said, you'll get it. And
amazing story.
That gave me a lot of confidence in him. I already had a lot of confidence in him because I was a regular church member and a deacon in a church and a Baptist church, and I don't know.
Well, you've brought honor to this studio and this network and to the entire state of Mississippi and the country by being here today and being willing to come in here today and talk to us about this. And we're very appreciative, and we're super grateful for your service as well, sir. We thank you.
Yes, sir. Or is it over?
No, sir. We're still talking.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure that our audience heard that. There's about 100,000 people tuning in right now.
Right. Well, I hope I don't disappoint.
You're doing great, fantastic. Disappoint. You've already, just by serving, you accomplished more in your life than the rest of us have.
I watched that big man in the tree right in front of me, probably 15 seconds away from me. And I knew I was his first target. And there was no doubt in my mind that he had me on his brain.
Yeah.
But certainly God started his business of taking care of me. Somebody from somewhere put a big projectile right underneath his seat, and
wow.
It lifted it. It just lifted it up about something like 10, 11, 12 feet.
Did you worry every day, Mr. Holifield, that this was the day that I wasn't going to make it, and you prayed to God to spare you? It sounds to me like your deep-seated faith is what kept you alive and allowed you to endure that.
And God was good to me.
Yes, sir.
He saved it. He didn't. I had not one scratch on me.
Right.
And
would you do it again?
That thing lifted up. Well, not unless I had to.
Yes, sir.
And I was in a position then. There was not much choice.
Yeah.
It was either fight it or lay down and die. It picked that chair up, and he was in it, and I could see him moving about. But some of the ammunition he carried up with him had an explosive type, and it put him back down to the ground. And when it come back down to where he left from, it tore it all to pieces, and tore him into pieces too.
Man.
And
so you witnessed that?
Yes, indeed.
Did you think it could have been me?
Not in that situation,
okay.
No, sir.
Okay.
I would not. I guess I'm not a very good soldier, but I wouldn't. I don't like to kill people.
Of course.
And
that make you not a bad
soldier.
soldier.
I'd give him a chance to run.
Yeah.
And he gave me a chance to run.
Okay.
I had got to where I could move if I needed to, but I needed to help everybody around him that I could.
Well, you're a hero in my book, and we thank you so much for coming on today. We got to go, but, man, you've been fantastic, and you're an American treasure, no doubt about that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Acknowledgement. I don't feel like I'm
Well, you are in my book.
Well, I just...
Thank you. God bless you.
I'd do it again if I had to.
I bet you would, too. We're coming right back, folks. Thank you.
From thesebrook.com. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
What? This is so
awesome. On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
A friend passed suddenly with an old estate plan from a first marriage. Now her family is stuck in court, arguing over everything. I know I have to do better for mine. With Trust and Will, I can make a legally valid estate plan online. Fast, affordable, and customized for my state. Go to trustandwill.com and use code radio for 20% off. Don't leave a mess behind. Leave a plan. Trust and Will is an online estate planning service. See website for details.
Trust and Will.
Okay, we're back, and I'm going to ask you to indulge me for a second while I try to process and comprehend what we just experienced. This is still like too much on one day, man. And I can't help but think about what a hero that guy is. It's an honor just to breathe there in the same room with him. And yet we have cowards. They're cowards. And it's because of this guy and his bravery, Mr. Holifield, that protected the freedoms we all enjoy. The greatest generation. We know that. Man, and to still be alive today and to be able to recall that at that age, Rhino, so vividly, the details, that's incredible. That's just incredible. He shared with us after the interview that he said, I'm a real smart man. I have a 9th grade education.
Then he caught himself and said 8th grade education.
Yeah, that's right. Mr. Holifield, you are smart. You're brilliant. You see, degrees don't make you smart. They don't prove your intellect. That man is smart. He's a hero. We should thank him and extend our gratitude every damn day. But there's some people in this country that abuse their freedom. What happened yesterday with Charlie Kirk is enshrined in our First Amendment. Free assembly and speech. You don't like what they say, and you kill them. And here's a man that didn't want to kill a person that wanted to kill him. You don't deserve. You're at large right now, and there are others that feel the same way. You don't deserve the freedoms this guy fought to protect. His life in danger every day while he was serving. We're blessed that he came in today, and you may have heard he was with his daughter, and her handling of him is something to behold, is it not? You can't
and I will
that.
apologize for us getting back on the air late, but it was more important for me to make sure that he was comfortable and safe leaving the studio.
Absolutely, and we thank you for that. That's right. And no apology necessary, of course. Man, I don't know what else to say. There's indescribable to just be in his presence like that. And for him to recall those experiences and articulate them the way he did, man, we don't deserve it sometimes, I feel. And the best thing we can do is continue to fight. And I don't mean in a physical way, to preserve what he fought in a physical way, what he put his life on the line for. At a minimum, to do that. And it was so neat for him to talk about how his faith, he's convinced, saved his life. Just a simple prayer to the Almighty. Please don't take my life. And can you imagine at age 17 and 18 saying, yeah, I know I hadn't always been a good person, but give me one more chance, God, and I'll make up for it. Pretty sure he did. In a multiplicative way. Is there any doubt? No. It's just amazing to me that we're honored, and kudos to our content director for getting him scheduled to be on this day. And it was really to coincide with 9/11. Little did we know at the time that we'd have this horrific situation with Charlie Kirk. So the convergence of all that, honestly, is overwhelming me. This gentleman, Mr. Jimmy Wesley Holifield from Kilmichael, Mississippi, even cutting a joke about it at 99. How incredible is that? So we have that. We have the 24th year mark of 9/11. An attack, a direct assault on our freedom, on our way of life. And then yesterday, which is tantamount. That was an attack on our way of life. You can't come in here and speak freely and express your views and opinions. You're hurting my feelings. I can't comprehend it. I really can't. I'm saddened, I'm mad, and then I'm just in awe of this gentleman. The range of emotions is incredible. We appreciate you tuning in and indulging, and we got lots of great comments on the C Spire text line. Jeff in Grenada says, mesmerizing. on the 601. We salute this veteran, Mr. Holifield, who has served and brought honor to the USA and Mississippi. God bless this man. Totally agree. Jason in Brookhaven, thank you for having the World War II veteran on today. My heart needed that lifting up today. So thankful for brave men and women like him. Amen. Jimbo in Gluckstadt sent a photo outside the fire station in Wiggins. It's an American flag hoisted up on, looks like it's one of the fire apparatus, right, Rhino, with the lift on it and the huge American flag draped over the street there. Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, it's on the truck ladder.
Gotcha. Thank you for that, Jimbo. So, Thomas in Greenwood says current suspect if the leak is confirmed.
Yeah, the FBI did just release a photograph of a college-age male wearing a black graphic T-shirt, blue jeans, a black baseball cap, and sports-style sunglasses, also colored black. We're wearing a black backpack and a watch on his left wrist.
Yeah, I see that now. Well, that's interesting. He, of course...
What that tells me is that the FBI was unable to positively ID the suspect with the technology at their disposal, and they're now asking for the public's help in identifying this person of interest.
There you go. Tim and McGee says, I've been listening to this station since it came on, and that's the very best interview that I've ever heard with you and that American hero. Great job. It's all the credit goes to, thank you for that, Tim, first of all, but all the credit goes to Mr. Holifield. I just did my best to guide him a little bit, and he could have gone on, but honestly, it's a bit of a chore for him at that age, and out of respect. But he actually said, I'll stay here and keep talking off the air, and he's got so many stories, so I suggested he step out in the green room and share them with Will East, and he just did that. You and I could overhear that, and Will's going to update us, and we'll pass those on. But, man, that's living history, Rhino. That's what that is. That's living history. We're so blessed for him to be in our midst. Can't say enough about it, honestly. Yeah, here's another photo from William and Brandon. This one's even more clear of the suspect. The ones Thomas sent was like kind of from an angle. This one is like head on, right, that we're looking at. What is that crap on his shirt, Rhino? Can you make that out?
It appears to be an American flag and an eagle in some sort of graphic format, but unclear exactly what branding that might be or whatever it is. But again, that could have been to blend into the crowd. There's any number of reasons he would wear a shirt like that.
Yeah.
I remember the Butler shooter, he had on a shirt of a YouTuber.
Right.
And it's believed, it never was confirmed because he's dead, but it was believed that was an attempt to shift blame towards that YouTuber and all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha. Gary in Carrollton says, my father was a World War II in Korea. Tough is an understatement, man. There ain't no doubt about that. God bless him and God bless the USA, says Gary from Tishomingo. There's always a need for someone to stand on the wall, and the veterans stood on the wall for all of us. That's on the 662. Absolutely true. We're coming right back in the Element Well studio. Stay with us.
Attention, adoring fans! It's time for
Middays with Gerard Gibert on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
So I'm going to break with the subject matter for just a second and try to compose myself. The markets are doing well today. Talk about your money. The Dow up 562, the NASDAQ up 142, the Dow at 46,000. Believe, Rhino, that's a record. Also, some good news on the interest rate front. The 10-year down to 4% and change. So interest rates are driven by the 10-year, the typical consumer interest rates, credit cards, automobiles, mortgages. And that's because the CPI report came out this morning, the inflation report. And it's not really influencing investors the way you may think. It came in and basically said, yep, we still have 2.9% annualized inflation. Really no major improvement there. And month over month, in line at 0.3%. So all consistent with expectations. But there's news about a weakening job market. And the fact that inflation's not on fire and the job market is weak is likely to trigger the Fed to lower rates. Some now think as much as half a point instead of what has been thought up to this news today to be a quarter point. They're meeting next week. But now the markets are pricing in a 100 basis point decrease in the Fed funds rate, the benchmark rate. That's 1%. So if you look at what the Fed funds rate is today, we chop a 1% off of that. That is the expectation by the end of the year. Markets are celebrating that. They like that news. And that's why the Dow's up 588 points today. It pretty much cements the idea. It's no longer speculation. The Fed's definitely going to have to react because the job markets aren't looking real great right now across the industry spectrum. And the Fed has two mandates in accordance with law. Price stability, that's a fancy word for saying, hey, don't let inflation get out of control. And maximum employment. And so they're looking at both. And when they see the data showing that, hey, the employment picture is certainly softening, that is likely to cause action on their part, and that action would be to lower rates in the markets like that. So I just wanted to pass that on. And really, the inflation story is consistent with what we thought here when Mr. Trump got elected, that you're not going to see deflation. That would be the price of stuff coming down. Rather, we're going to see moderation in tamping down of inflation. So this 2.9% annualized rate is above the Fed target of 2%. That's what they typically push for, and their monetary policy is gauged around creating an environment, an economic environment where inflation is around 2%. So it's a little outside of their comfort zone, but they're also got the mandate of maximum employment, and they're going to take some stock in the latest data there, and that will be a factor they will consider in whatever actions they take on the benchmark rate next week and then for the duration of the year. So the president, again, is calling for Jay Powell and the Fed governors to lower rates. He believes that the data provides coverage for them to do so. I agree with him in that particular scenario. I completely agree. Calls him too late, Jay Powell. So it turns out the assistant dean of students of Middle Tennessee State University, just north of us, has been fired, this just out, after publicly celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Laura Sosh Lightsey wrote, quote, Charlie spoke his fate into existence. Hate begets hate. Zero sympathy. This is who's charged of teaching our young people. gone. Middle Tennessee State University President Sidney McPhee made a statement just a little while ago condemning the employee's statement, indicating that it is not consistent with the values of the university and have undermined the university's credibility and reputation with our students, faculty, staff, and the community at large. This employee has been fired effective immediately. We extend our deepest sympathies to the Kirk family. That is the appropriate action. But back to her statement. What hate speech? What hate speech? That he believes and loves Christ? That he supports the idea of the nuclear family? Is that hate speech?
Because he didn't buy into the delusions of literally insane people.
That he wants to protect the unborn? That he doesn't want adults seizing on children, whacking off their genitals, sterilizing them? That's hate speech? I guess so.
To the left. To the weak-willed scumbags on the left, yes.
No, hate is when you take a 12-year-old and because they may just even talk about something that's inconsistent with the behavior of their biological sex, you immediately rush them to the clinic.
I call it the death of the tomboy.
Unbelievable. We can't have tomboys anymore?
No.
I see. These people are sick, man. We can't let them win. We can't. We've got to continue the work, the important work of Charlie Kirk and others, and who are just clear-thinking human beings. My gosh, that's all this is here. This isn't we're not philosophers. It's not like we're deep thinkers. There's just common sense. I mean, this is like...
Evil is real.
Golly, I can't comprehend it. I really can't. I mean, it's just human senses. Unbelievable. It's this, and so you're informing us about this Wall Street Journal report that indicates some sort of transgender messaging, right, on the ammunition.
Transgender and anti-fascist messaging engraved in the ammunition left in the firearm.
So, if what Charlie Kirk is doing is considered fascist, which is absurd on the surface, what is it when you show up at an event that is protected by the First Amendment and assassinate a person expressing their views? What the hell's that?
To the left, justified rage.
Man, unbelievable. Well, might we see a pivot among our university systems in this country based on this action by Middle Tennessee State? Will there be others that will call out their own?
Considering their lack of introspection in the 6 months plus that Trump has been president, I wouldn't hold my breath.
Well, I don't know what the proper action is. I'm going to think about it. We can't let it happen. Now, I've already shared with you the statement. Maybe I didn't read the statement. I just talked about what a statement that was released by someone in the administration at the University of Mississippi. And I said earlier, and I mean it, and I don't mind saying it again, she needs to be terminated as far as I'm concerned. There's no place for her on a college campus anywhere, especially at my alma mater and in my home state. But to describe Charlie Kirk as a member of the Klan, that's crazy. That guy would give the shirt off his back to any black person that truly needed it. Would he not? You know he would. Would they extend the same courtesy? Hell no. They tell you just like that Black girl did during the BLM riots. Oh, we're just going to take your stuff. That's reparations. And the video you shared with other higher-ups in the organization calling for violence. It's incredible. And they do it with impunity, and it's got to stop. They're the ones that incited. They're the ones that essentially persuaded in this twisted mind of this killer to take the action that he did yesterday. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio. Gregg Harper at 12:05.
I feel good. Poly up of Mississippi.
Come on.
Middays with Gerard Gibert.
All right, we are back
on SuperTalk Mississippi.
The eagle's been flying slow, and the flag's been flying low, and a lot of people saying that America's fixing to fall. But speaking just for me, and some people from
So the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, they have fired a staffer over a post. Maybe we're seeing some traction here at Rhino that folks just won't tolerate it anymore, because it feels like that employers, private and public sector, have just lived in fear. Oh, we can't do that because of the retribution. The hell with the retribution. It's time to take action and just do what's right. On the season.
I really don't give a rat's rear end what somebody who's obviously insane feels about me or has names to call me, because you are inferior intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. So you can call me all the isms and ists you want. I'm still going to tell the truth and hurt your fragile little feelings.
Incredible. So this person, let's see, Charlie Rock, a member of the team's communications department, fired. That is from the Panthers organization. So he posted on social media where he appeared to question why people were sad that Kirk had been shot and killed. Also shared the songs Protect Your Neck from the Wu-Tang Clan. The song. Shared that song. You're sick. Incredible. So, good. They fired his ass. And, you know, the incendiary rhetoric that I believe foments this sort of violence and inspires nutcases like this to take human life, it even comes from members of Congress. Who could forget Maxine Waters? That went viral. Remember that? If you see anybody from the cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, talking about the Trump administration, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. You push back on them. You tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere. That's a member of the United States House. They don't deserve to be there. Incredible. Charlie Kirk called for unity, tolerance, something the left doesn't ever extend. They're the most intolerant ilk on God's green earth, the American left. And what's crazy is the very values, the policies, the laws, the systems that enable them to be intolerant are promoted by the people they hate. They don't want that. You say it all the time. They just want you to their way or the highway attitude. If anything that doesn't align with that,
it's fascist, right? Nazism.
To the point where we got to kill you. And, you know, I shared with a lot of my friends the last 24 hours that it was incredible, this poll that you and I talked about conducted back in April. And it gave rise to the term assassination culture. A survey found half of liberal-leaning U.S. residents could see justification of assassination of the president and Elon Musk. Half. Assassination. Yet these are the people that claim that his election and Elon Musk's work with the Doge Group in Washington is the end of democracy. No assassination with impunity and calling for it, fomenting it, inciting it, that is the end of democracy. No safety, no rule of law, no law and order, no country. How's that worked out in countries that don't have adherence to a rule of law? They're all destitute poor, except for a handful at the top. That's the system. That's what the system creates. Yet they're the ones that gripe about income inequality. It's just unbelievable. I was with someone yesterday, someone my age, that listens and enjoys the show, and was telling me how his adult kids, that they're among those who just believe billionaires are the problem. And so they would justify assassinating them. I'm not saying his kids would, but this poll, this was April. Was it not telling or not? Because is that not what we see played out?
Evil is real, and seemingly an overwhelming majority of one political party is doing everything in their power to cultivate it and protect it.
Unbelievable. Protect evil in the name of their political agenda and goals, which is just to put you down because you don't agree with what they do. And you can't just leave it at that to them. We're taking a break for Fox News Super Talk News. Gregg Harper joins us after that.
Get ready to go beyond the headlines and join a meaningful conversation with people from around the state. Hello? You're listening to MidDays with Gerard Gibert here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio on this
Friday Eve.
We welcome now Gregg Harper, former congressman for Mississippi's 3rd District. Hey, Greg, how's it going, man? Good to see you.
Good, Gerard. Glad to be with you today. And, man, what a crazy time and crazy world. I think everybody's pretty devastated right now.
Yeah, I think that is quite accurate. We've been talking about it all morning. And, of course, honestly, Greg, I'm having a hard time composing myself and just trying to pick the right words to describe what happened yesterday, what we witnessed, and then, of course, this day marking 24 years since the 9/11 attack on our country, direct attack on our country, our way of life. And to some extent, I feel like there's some similarities there, Greg, that there are people that just don't like the way other people think and their lifestyle and their standards and their values, and they just decide to take matters into their own hands and believe that the only remedy is to kill other people. It's incomprehensible.
You know, when we were younger, before social media, it wasn't this toxic,
right?
And so that's just sort of been a nightmare. That people will say things. You've seen it. I saw it when I was in office. People would say things on social media they would never have said to your face, not without a price to pay for saying it to your face. And now, it's just the hate that's out there, the ease that there is there. All I know is Charlie Kirk was a rising star beautiful family, and our heart's broken, really, for his wife and kids, and just for what it means for our country, and and look at all we've had. One direct attempt on Trump's life that was just a miracle that he survived that, and then another that would have been, and then this, and you can go look at what happened in Minnesota with the lawmakers there. It's not limited to just one side, but what is the left's response every time? It's, well, we need gun control. And no, we need to teach people the value of human life. And because, the evil man that murdered that poor Ukrainian girl on the metro in Charlotte, he didn't have a gun, but he had lots of issues going on. So, Gerard, I don't know. Do you think this will mean people will kind of try to tone it down? From comments I see on social media right now, it's ramped up, not toned down.
No, I agree. I think it has increased and intensified to a great extent. But I also think we can't be complacent anymore. And that's not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that violence is the answer, because it's clearly not. We denounce that 100%. But we can't just be idle anymore and let these kind of things happen. So, Greg, you've served in the United States House of Representatives with honor and distinction. You've got a bunch of people that all have different viewpoints, but you got to work together to try to take care of the people's business. But I'm just appalled this morning. We played the clip. You're probably aware of it, that when the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, called for a moment of silence, just out of respect for this loss of life of someone that everybody knows and knew, that many in the chamber objected to it and got boisterous, and he called for order, and they never could get that done. I mean, what in the world's going on?
Yeah. Well, it's, of all bodies that should know that it's got to be toned down, you would think it would be Congress, because every one of those members, Republicans or Democrats, deal with safety issues and threats.
Yeah.
Death threats to their family, and it's just not good when you see it go off the rails like that. But we look back to when, I think it was my first joint session to attend, Obama's first one, when Joe Wilson yelled out, "You lie."
Yeah.
That seems really mild today,
yeah,
it?
That's true.
Yeah, that really wasn't much then, but now it's like, oh my gosh, what goes on the floor, the lack of decorum there, it's a pretty tough deal, because we have some members that they'll just say whatever they want. But I will say this: my concern is that this will have a potentially, I hope it doesn't, will have a chilling effect on good people getting involved in the process.
Man, I hope that's not the case.
Do you want to put your family through that? I mean, it's tough. It's just easier to just have your feelings and stay over the sidelines, when those are the kind of people we need to have, leading the way.
Yeah, totally agree. And you got to believe, Greg, that Charlie Kirk knew that every time he went onto these college campuses where the attitude with respect to his values and his beliefs, his worldview, was overwhelmingly in opposition of it, yet he didn't hesitate to go there with a small minority of students and some faculty that actually aligned with his viewpoints and would of course come out to see him. And many times, of course, he would invite people that didn't agree with him, and they often attended. And he would invite them to the front, come express your views and let's have a conversation about it. But he always let them speak, and it was not degrading or demeaning. And he didn't smear them in any way. He let them speak, and then he just offered his counter views. Isn't that the way it's supposed to work?
He was perfect in his approach. He was respectful. He'd let others have their say. He'd try to answer it, and not really an emotional, certainly an adamant way. That he was definitely, very firm in his beliefs, but he was always respectful. I mean, when you're talking about, here's a man who just, with the let's say with the legacy media, with the traditional college campuses, he just was one of those that was very. I mean, look, he was as brave as could be. It cost him his life, and we're just devastated. And what do? Do you say, well, I'm going to go hide in my closet now, and I'm not going to go anywhere or do anything? That would be absolutely, not the legacy that he would want to see. And so I'm hopeful that people will learn. I really think his approach was the greatest approach we've seen, and I give him a lot of credit for turning out young people to vote for Trump this last election. He was critical to what happened this last time.
And it would be a guess, it would be speculation at this point. But Greg, what do you think? Do you think that perhaps was a factor here, that he was unabashed about his support for the president? And I think he turned around a lot of attitudes about the president among that sort of Generation Z young complement in our society. Perhaps that was at play here.
Yeah, I mean, was that a factor? We don't know. I mean, the last that I heard before we went on air was they still have not identified the suspect. So it's pure speculation at this point. But no doubt his effectiveness made him an even greater enemy. And look, he spent his whole life since he, I think, dropped out of college,
right,
being at the forefront and showing. I mean, he'd go. People would get in his face and threaten him. I mean, this was nothing new. This seemed like a pretty safe environment for him, though, if you just were looking at it on paper. And so I just give him, just great amount of regard and respect. And I think he's somebody that the public will not forget about. And I know he's going to be missed in that role. And you've got to hope that others will step up that have that influence with people younger than me. And I'm hoping they don't do that, because he was, monumental on college campuses and a game changer.
And we've been talking about it this morning, and we've talked about it a lot on this program, but it feels like, Greg, that college campuses are where a lot of these bad attitudes are taught and engendered, and that's a big influencer on the young population in this country that seem to just think so lowly of folks on the right and conservative values.
Oh, I think it's pretty widespread that he was hated, certainly by probably most of the administrations and faculties of most of the universities in the country. There's some but he still turned out great crowds.
Yeah.
He emboldened and gave courage to those students who, probably had been beaten down a little bit about because they had conservative beliefs. But it's built in. You just hope your child, when they go to college, has a good enough foundation to be a free thinker, be able to stand up for themselves, or hope that they go to a university where their views are more welcome.
We got a break right here, but you're going to hang around with us. We'll talk for another segment, right?
Yes, sir.
All right,
Look
great.
forward to it.
We got Gregg Harper, former congressman from Mississippi, on the line. We're coming right back. Stay with us.
Covering the stories that matter most to Mississippians. Gerard Gibert, Middays with Gerard, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York, these vagabond shoes.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Middays from the Element Wealth Studio. We're visiting with former Congressman Gregg Harper. So, Greg, what should be our response? Those of us on the right who certainly are deeply saddened and disturbed by this event yesterday. It does feel like that we've been I guess, a little overshadowed by the left and their activism, and their activism has devolved into violence, honestly. What should we do? I mean, the Speaker of the House this morning, he got kind of short with his members there and called for order in the chamber, which he should, honestly, of course. But what action can we take? Have you thought through that? I'm kind of at a loss on what we should do here.
Yeah, I think it's obviously individual decisions that you have to make. That I would certainly say, we're in a period of mourning, and will be for a number of days, if not longer. But I think at the same time, you have to look and say, okay, what am I going to do? I think emulating the way that Charlie Kirk has been in his life is certainly an effective way to be disagreeable but respectful with those who have different opinions. So I think we've got to look, at the end of the day, we've got to win elections, don't we? We've got to make sure we keep control of the House. Well, I think right now, one of the things going on is we know next year in 2026, one of the issues, again, will be a woman's right of reproduction and women's, health care, and not ever saying the word abortion. But that's a big issue in a lot of places across the country. And the Republicans can't be silent on that issue. So they've got to be able to show, for instance, over the next, campaign season, the value of that human life, that heartbeat is a child, it's a human being, and start kind of shifting that narrative to where we change that mindset. So I think if we're going to just rant and rave, I don't know that we're going to be particularly effective going forward. We're just going to make the battle lines even more severe. So I would say we've got to be strong. We've got to know what our message is. And I think the last thing that we want to do is not be in the arena. Yeah. So I do believe we've got to be supporting those candidates that are going to be, brave and do those things. And we just can't look, this is a major setback. You're praying that's, as we mourn the loss of Charlie Kirk, who's going to fill that vacuum? Yeah. It's going to be hard to find somebody of that caliber. But we just hope that they will, and that the college students will remain strong, that have become very adamant on their conservative beliefs. So it's a tough time. It's not easy. Good night. All from our side, from the political side on Republicans, you hope that Jasmine Crockett continues to be the face of the Democratic Party. We've got an opportunity if we handle it right, but we've got to look forward to know that those conservative principles are the right principles, and we've got to be sure that we get the vote out, we keep people involved. But in the meantime, we can't. The violence has no place, but it's there. And so how do we protect against it, make sure we protect it? And I would really say all the members of the House and Senate, state, local, federal, whatever you got, most people wouldn't want to be in their shoes. It's a tough place, whether it's time away from families or other threats. We got death threats all the time. And I don't even know what I said that upset people. We were always trying to be diplomatic on that, but it's a common occurrence. And guess what? The world's full of crazy people.
It is.
It's a tough place. So.
We've been talking some this morning about lots of people just across the country that are saying just totally inappropriate and insensitive things. Of course, like you said earlier, they have this tool, social media, where they can just express their views, and it's for all to see. We just reported on one from the Carolina Panthers, and it was a member of their staff, and was terminated. The organization made a statement this morning. Matthew Dowd at MSNBC. Props to MSNBC for doing the right thing. The CEO issued a statement. He made inappropriate comments yesterday, right after the shooting. And so he was fairly abruptly terminated. And there are numerous others. I exposed someone on the staff at Ole Miss this morning that posted something totally inappropriate, and that's going viral all over the place. You know, it feels like that what we can at least do is maybe shame those folks and condemn their statements in a respectful way, but still condemn them, and maybe that'll motivate these organizations to take action.
Yeah, how can anybody say that a person who was assassinated, that it was their fault? I mean, come on.
Unbelievable.
I mean, that you have no intellectual, authority, or, I mean, you've lost anything that you had on your credibility if you say that, when he's just sitting there talking to a group of college students and it's his fault. Look, he stood up for free speech in this country, for our First Amendment, like nobody else had. He gave his life for it. And we just have to make sure that, his legacy is honored by how we act and behave going forward, but to not be afraid to stay in the arena no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely true. I just feel like we can't stay silent, that we can't, and that we don't want to replicate what they do and their approach and their tactics. Those are unacceptable in my view, but there's a way to address this in a way that gets people's attention, that maybe causes them to rethink their agendas and their strategies and their policies, where we've just kind of jumped a shark here, and we've put all of this physical attribute stuff above everything else, and it's irrelevant, honestly. It's all about your value proposition in whatever the endeavor is.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And what we've got to do is make sure that we've got to do a better job of explaining our conservative positions. And we just say, well, I'm for this or I'm for that, and we get attacked by the left. But we've got to make sure that we can explain that. Why is it better to have a lower tax rate? Why is it better to look at what's going on how many abortions? I mean, it's unbelievable. And it may not be a direct abortion, it may be an abortion pill. But those are the ending of lives that, honestly, a society needs. We have to have. It's unprecedented for a woman to say, well, it's my body. Well, who's going to stand up for the right of that unborn child? I mean, do they not have any rights? Is nobody going to stand up for them? And I think what we need to do as part of that, I said earlier, Gerard, is have women on commercials next year that can say, hey, I didn't abort my baby. Or somebody says, it was the worst decision I ever made in my life. Don't do it. Where we don't have to make it political, but start showing that value's there, and it's a blight on our society. It's a curse on our society.
I feel that, and I agree, but I also feel like maybe the same should be applied in the same strategy used for those that rushed into having these gender treatments and transforming their biological sex to some gender identity, and then regretting it down the road and having to deal with all the other medical issues that surface as well, because the left just seems to be all leaned into that, and
it's crazy.
Defending this idea of mutilating a child's genitals, which is just insane to me.
Yeah. Gerard, look, here's the thing. If you're an adult and you just are stupid and you want to do something, then it's hard to argue with that.
Yeah.
But to have society help a child go through something that they really don't understand,
100%,
that they're not in a position, it's horrible. And then for the Dems to be all in, it seems, on letting men compete in women's sports or go in women's locker rooms or bathrooms, that's a we always talk about an 80-20 issue. That's probably about a 99-1 issue.
Sure seems.
My goodness.
I think you're right. Yeah. I think I would be parading those stories, real life stories of how people have been harmed across the board in next year's midterms as the way to retain control of the House and even expand our lead in the Senate somewhat. But Congressman, always good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Hey, always a pleasure. Have a great day. We'll see you.
Yes,
Thanks.
sir. God bless. Thank you. We're coming right back.
In my woman's eyes, feel touch of a precious child and no mother's love.
From theseabrook.com. Middays with Gerard Gibert.
It is on.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
As we mourn the loss of thousands of our citizens, I can hear you. I can hear you. The rest of the world hears you. And the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
American girls and American guys, we'll always stand up and salute. We'll always recognize when we see old glory flying. There's a lot of men dead, so we can sleep in peace at night when we lay down our head. My daddy served in the army, we lost his right eye, but he flew a flag out in our yard till the day that he died. He wanted my mother, my brother, my sister, and me to grow up.
We're back with you in the Element Wealth studio today on In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar. You'll hear an interview with the members of the indie rock band Wildorado. Did I pronounce all that right, Rhino?
I think so.
So, also don't forget, high school football, it's back, and SuperTalk Mississippi has you covered. You can catch a local game on just about every SuperTalk Mississippi station, plus you can stream a ton of games and get up-to-the-minute scores from across the entire state by going to supertalk.fm/high school or by clicking on sports on the SuperTalk Mississippi app. Check out the Farm Bureau Insurance Company Scoreboard Show at 10 p.m. That comes on Friday nights. Anywhere you listen or watch SuperTalk Mississippi. 601-879-4395. As many of you know, that is the C Spire text line. Go to myelementwealth.com or call 601-957-6006 to let our fine studio sponsor, Element Wealth, help you find your balance between income growth and guarantees. The market's still in good shape. NASDAQ up 150 points. The Dow really on fire today. It has crossed the 600-point up line. It's presently up 594. The 10-year treasuries we talked about earlier down to around 4%. That's good news. If you're looking to borrow some money for a house, a car, credit card, interest payments, etc., all driven by the 10-year. Oil, still in that $62, $65 a barrel. Today it's down $1.62 and change. Just seems to be hanging around there. The inflation report is causing concern for investors, but that's being overshadowed. It came out this morning, and the big thing that is noteworthy is that core inflation, that excludes prices for food and energy, rose 3.1%. Headline, top line, including food and energy, 2.9%. That's largely because energy is down since the president took office about 6%. Gas, specifically gas. Energy overall down a bit, but not a whole lot, mainly driven by, again, gas. You've got other forms of energy we all consume, electricity, natural gas for many as well. Electricity up a little bit, natural gas down a little bit, fairly level since the president took office. The price of gas at the pump, however, nationwide down about 6% since the president took office. But it's food. Food rose the most in 1 month since 2022, last month. So that's got investors a little skittish, but those concerns are being offset more significantly by the weak job market. The investors think, hey, the Fed's got this dual mandate, price stability and maximum employment. These job numbers are likely to result in the Fed cutting rates. Maybe we'll get 0.5 point next week. Most people still believe we'll get 0.25 point. That's what the surveys and all the prognosticators say. But there is some new news, and this is what's really got the markets on fire today. Some new reports suggesting we may get a full point, 100 basis points or 1 full percentage point reduction in the benchmark interest rates. Why is that good news for markets? Because it means that businesses are likely to go invest more in people, in capital equipment, in research and development, all of which in construction projects, all the above. And that is thought to drive economic activity and thus bottom line profit and profits. Despite what the left in this country believes, Rhino, profits happen to be the mother's milk of stocks. And about 85% of the people in this country have some sort of equity holding, it turns out. They rely on those, hoping to retire one day and seeing those returns continue to increase over time and having a nest egg with which to retire. That's the way it works here in this country. It's a pretty dang good system. And the only thing that can screw it up are idiots in government who are so worried about somebody making money. It's just unbelievable. Oh, man. Let's see on the C Spire text line. While you were at break waiting on Congressman Harper to come on, Fox News again called Charlie a right-wing political activist. That's pathetic. I would call him a conservative Christian influencer, if anything. That's what he did. I think both apply. Honestly, being called a right-wing political activist is not a pejorative. That's not negative. He was. He believed in what are commonly considered right-wing principles, values, philosophy. He espoused those. He was an activist in that he put his money where his mouth was, and I contributed. He raised money for his work, his work as an activist by showing up on a college campus and engaging with a bunch of people that don't agree with you. That's what an activist does.
What's unacceptable is calling him, who was by all measures a moderate, an extremist.
Agree.
Or a Nazi, or a fascist.
There's a difference, we talked about it on the break, there's a difference between labeling someone as an activist, meaning they're just active, that they're engaged, that they're traveling, that they're interacting, that they're working with others, speaking as he did. All of that would make him an activist. What is different, however, there is a difference between being an activist and being all those things you just described, which are just categorically false, of course. And I noticed at Wikipedia, I don't know if you checked this out. Yeah, they also described him in a negative tone. If they'd have just left it at, yeah, he was a right-wing activist, I'd be okay with that. But they went further than that. And let's see, I'm looking for it right now. I was surprised when I looked at the entry. A highly polarizing figure in American politics. I mean, I don't know that I would say that, I guess you could say he's polarizing just because, unfortunately, anybody in this country is on one side or the other. There's so little agreement and alignment and congruence. Almost any viewpoints you have could be considered polarizing because in general, most of us fit into one bucket or another, and the other half of the country doesn't agree with us. And that's what polarization means. But here's what they said. He was criticized for invoking anti-Semitic, I can't get it out, anti-Semitic tropes, and for his inflammatory rhetoric regarding race, immigration, and the Civil Rights Act. Huh? What's inflammatory about saying shut the damn borders down? Does that inflame the left? Unfortunately, It does. Or just being critical of having wide open borders and rhetoric regarding race where he said, no, you shouldn't get special treatment because of your race. That's inflammatory? I guess so. What did he say that's anti-Semitic? I must have missed that. What is...
He questioned Israel's influence over national matters.
Okay. Isn't that what we do in this country? Isn't that part of his right to free speech and free expression? And the right to redress your government? Sure it is. These people don't want that, though, do they? No, what they want is a dictatorship. They want you to, as you've said, sit down, shut up, accept it, eat it, and just go away, if you will. And then they said, this is in Wikipedia, promoted numerous conspiracy theories and falsehoods, particularly around election fraud, COVID-19, and cultural Marxism. You see, that's where they're wrong. The fact that he questions any of this is in the best traditions of the First Amendment. That is why it's the First Amendment. I know I beat this horse to death. The founders were brilliant in understanding that. Is that not what they were escaping?
But the modern left's arguments are so pathetic and weak that any pushback whatsoever makes them crumble.
That's right. Weak. Cowards. Just sit down, shut up, and like it, right? Like Anthony Fauci told us to do. We're coming right back. Stay with us. Final segment.
Middays with Gerard.
Good for America. Good for fans of justice and truth. Good for us.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
This is what we stand for.
And I didn't mean to get confrontational with the listener here that texted us, and we just had the phone number about him being described as an activist. And because, again, that doesn't necessarily have a negative connotation with it. I think we've gotten to a point where when we think about activists, we think about these idiots going out and burning buildings down, right? But that's not actually what an activist is. And so just for the hell of it, I looked up the Oxford Dictionary definition, and it's a person who campaigns to bring about political or social change. I think in that regard, Charlie Kirk certainly could be described as an activist. Heck, you could say we are to some extent. But I think the way I would distinguish it and him being referred to as an activist is that he was proactive. He was traveling the country. He was scheduling events, talking to people, recording podcasts, doing interviews, all the above, and espousing and promoting his beliefs and his philosophy. And more importantly, and when you look at the definition, bring about political or social change. Going to a college campus and having frank, civil conversations with people who disagree with your viewpoints, well, that's the essence of being an activist, is it not? Based on that definition. So, just cautioning or encouraging our listener, don't necessarily view that as negative. I get how you could come to that conclusion because of the way the word gets tossed around rather casually, and often it is used to describe. No, the people that go out and burn buildings, they're freaking criminals is what they are. And they're evil, as you say, and they're full of hate. That's different. That's not being an activist. You're being destructive. You're not trying to bring about social change. You may think you are, but you're not.
But to the crazy radicals on the left, that is restorative justice.
Unfortunately, that's where we are. You know when I think the situation will change? When I was thinking through this after asking the question of Congressman Harper about what should we do? You know what could, I think, facilitate and enable change? The idiots in Congress yesterday, rather than showing out and acting petulant, or today, I should say.
It was yesterday.
It was yesterday. Okay, I had it right to start with. Because they were in session. They gavelled in, and the Speaker wanted to have a moment of silence. And they objected, and it devolved somewhat into vocal bedlam among a few idiots in the chamber there on the floor, elected in their districts by American citizens, hopefully. And if they would come out and say something, guys, this isn't right. I'm going to start a new trend. I'm just going to scratch this incendiary rhetoric, fascist and Nazi and all that crap, out of my discourse. I'm not going to write it. I'm not going to say it. I know that's a long shot.
Especially considering they've been calling every Republican candidate for president since Goldwater against LBJ.
That's true.
A Nazi or a Hitler.
The words Nazi and Hitler, do they realize what they're saying when they say that?
Very rarely.
So you equate a person who says that
dudes in dresses
shouldn't be competing against young girls in sports, a Nazi? They equate that to Hitler and Nazism? That does happen, does it not?
Every day that ends in Y.
Meaning you have, as Greg was saying, lack of intellect. You lack basic human reasoning and logic and discernment. You can't discern between a parent who doesn't want their young girl to compete against
dudes in dresses
from Adolf Hitler? Unbelievable.
Until the loony losers on the left that keep electing these worthless scumbags to Congress with the D by their name, until they start holding them to account for the violent rhetoric they've used for decades, since before I was born, nothing will change.
Unbelievable. Amanda from Pike County says, I'm sorry I missed your text earlier, Amanda. I see it now. I appreciate that. She says, good show, Gerard. It's okay to have righteous anger. She said in her text, all the people Charlie Kirk challenged could not refute his logic, so they hated him for speaking the truth. Sadly, I believe Amanda's right on that, and to the point where it drove somebody to kill him. That's what I believe. Jason and Brookhaven, thank y'all so much for an awesome show today, praying for the Kirk family and this great nation for unity and for us to love our neighbors ourselves. Well said, Jason. Appreciate that. Folks, how blessed were we today to have Mr. Jimmy Wesley Holifield, a World War II veteran, on the program. I'll never forget that. We thank you so much for joining us. Back tomorrow. Stay safe and God bless.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.